This is your weekly report on corruption in the Philippine government. 2 police non-commissioned officers, PNCOs, assigned with the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, BARMM, are now facing charges for their alleged involvement in extortion activities. In a statement Monday, Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group, IMEG, Chief Brigadier General Warren de Leon said charges of robbery, extortion and violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act were filed against Staff Sergeant Mark Anthony Palmer and Patrolman Gerald Tucas. With the implementation of Oplan Bansay or Bantay sa Pagsasanay, our training internal cleansing program, we were able to gather information on the alleged extortion activity perpetrated by these 2 active PNCOs who were supposed to be the role models of the trainees, being their trainers and mentors while undergoing the basic internal security operations course, BISOC, de Leon said in a statement. Based on the information report received by the IMEG Mindanao Field Unit, an alleged extortion activity transpired involving BISOC trainees at the BAR's Regional Special Training Unit. Palmer and Tucas allegedly demanded 60,000 pesos from the BISOC trainees in exchange for a more lenient treatment accorded to their class during the course of the training. The BISOC battalion commander and the class treasurer eventually gave in to the demands of their trainers, and the said amount was withdrawn from the class fund and was later given separately to the 2 police officers, where each of them received 30,000 pesos last the 27th of August inside Palmer's car parked at the mall Cotabato City. After a series of validation and eventual case build-up, the charges were filed against the 2 suspects on the 5th of September before the City Prosecutor's Office of Cotabato City for preliminary investigation. De Leon said an administrative complaint for grave misconduct and 2 counts of conduct unbecoming of a police officer defined under National Police Commission Memorandum Circular No. 2016-002 was referred to the Regional Internal Affairs Service, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for pre-charge investigation. The Commission on Audit, COA, has pointed to alleged lack of records and monitoring for the low collection of annual tonnage fees, ATF, by the Maritime Industry Authority, Marina, from water transport utilities and other maritime enterprises in 2019 and prior fiscal years. In Marina's central office, COA in its audit report said the total ATF collections in calendar years 2020 and 2021 amounted to 48,457,124 pesos. It said that of the amount, 2,982,857 pesos or 6.16% was for ATF for years 2010 to 2017. COA said that although the collections were supported with the required authority to accept payment, the verification of the propriety and correctness of the amounts collected could not be done due to lack of records. These records should include the schedules of receivables and master list of registered domestic vessels detailing the names of operators or companies, number of registered units, and the corresponding gross tonnages. COA said it discovered that 4,288,164 pesos or 8.85% of the total amount collected were from operators of domestic vessels that were not among those listed in the submitted master lists for fiscal years 2018 to 2020. It also said there were vessels that are non-operational but are still included in the master lists maintained by Marina. They could not be deleted from the registry yet until an application for deletion is filed, it noted. The Supreme Court has convicted a former provincial agrarian reform adjudicator for extorting cash and tuna fish from litigants 15 years ago. In its 21-page decision made available online on Monday, the SC affirmed the Sandiganbayan's 2019 decision convicting Henry Galacio of the Department of Agrarian Reform Adjudication Board Region 12 based in Cotabato City, Cotabato for violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act and sentenced him to up to 8 years behind bars. He was acquitted of a second charge of violating the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for public officials and employees. Galacio was found guilty of soliciting and accepting a total of 120,000 pesos and a whole tuna fish for the issuance of a temporary restraining order in a case in 2007. There is nothing that will justify the acts of accused appellant in accepting monetary and non-monetary considerations in exchange of a favorable action in the administrative case he was officially presiding, the SC said in affirming Galacio's conviction. The case involved a group of farmers, including the complainants led by the late Eduardo Garbo, who had pending cases between August and November 2007. Galacio's demand was made through the farmer's lawyer, who said the former Derab exec asked for money in exchange for a TRO. Garba gave 20,000 pesos to Galacia himself on 2 occasions in exchange for a draft of the TRO. The accused also asked for a whole tuna fish, which was also delivered to him. The other litigants pooled money to meet the 120,000 pesos demand. Garbo and his fellow litigants said the extortion adversely affected the livelihood of the farmers because they had to sell their farm animals and equipment, thus forcing their children to stop attending school. The Sandigan Bayan has convicted a former Maguindanao town mayor and 2 others on graft charges and sentenced them up to 7 years in prison for their part in irregularities in a 5 million pesos municipal water project in 2011. The Anti-Graft Court 5th Division, in its decision dated the 9th of September, found former Northern Kabuntalan Municipality Mayor Datu Umbrabayam Dalangalam, Municipal Accountant Rahima Ali, and Municipal Treasurer Kababare Mayel guilty of giving unwarranted benefits to a private firm, FFJJ Construction, in a contract for the town's small water impounding project. Prosecutors questioned why the accused authorized full contract price payment of the project even before the construction started, as under government procurement rules no time should full payment be made prior to the completion of a project. Dalangalan claims the charges were instigated by his political rivals and admitted that the contractor did not ask for full payment after the signing of the contract. He likewise denied that he allowed the full payment on account of familiarity with the contractor. The project was subsequently completed in the 20th of March 12. The court, in sentencing the 3 to imprisonment of 6 to 7 years in prison, said it is unconvinced by the mayor's claim that he did not know the rules governing the disbursement of public funds. The Court of Appeals, CA, upheld the decision of the Office of the Ombudsman imposing a 6-month suspension against a human resource management officer of the Aurora provincial government for enforcing policies that caused undue delay in the processing of employees' loan applications. In a decision dated the 7th of September, the appellate court turned down the petition filed by Jude Carmelo Q. Fulga questioning the Ombudsman's the 21st of February 2018 decision against him. The Ombudsman found Fulga guilty of conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service when he unilaterally imposed the additional requirement of securing clearances from the Ombudsman and the Civil Service Commission, CSC, before processing loans applications of employees with the Government Service Insurance System, GSIS, Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines, DBP. The Ombudsman, however, dismissed other administrative charges against Fulga for grave abuse of authority or oppression, gross neglect of duty, and inefficiency and incompetence in the performance of public functions. In junking Fulga's petition, the court said he ought to know the bounds of his duties, yet he unilaterally imposed a requirement not sanctioned by law. Fulga's actions, the CA said, have put undue physical and financial burden on loan applicants who, out of need, had no choice but to travel from Aurora to Manila and vice versa to secure unnecessary clearances from the Ombudsman and the CSC. Greater damage comes with the public's perception of corruption and or incompetence in the government. Such perception becomes more acute when a public officer delays or imposes undue burdens and requirements on the availment of benefits and privileges available to ordinary citizens as a lifeline in times of gravely pressing need, the CA added. Former North Cotabato Representative Gregorio Ipong and 2 officials of the defunct Technology and Livelihood Resource Center, TLRC, were convicted of graft and malversation for a second time for channeling 4.9 million pesos of his pork barrel, or his share of the discontinued Priority Development Assistance Fund, PDAF, into a bogus foundation in 2007. In a 52-page decision made public on the 13th of September, the Sandigan Bayan 6th Division found Ipong, former TLRC Deputy Director General Dennis Cunanan and former TLRC Chief Accountant Marivic Jova guilty of the charges and sentenced them each to between 16 and 27 years of imprisonment. The 3 were also ordered to individually pay 4.9 million pesos, equal to the amount they misused, the Sandigan Bayan said. This was on top of their civil liability, as the court also ordered them to jointly and severally indemnify the Republic of the Philippines, through the Bureau of Treasury, the same amount of 4.9 million pesos, with interest of 6% per year until fully paid. The 3 were also banned from holding any government position. The charges originated from the fraudulent transfer of Ipong's PDAF allocation to Aran Foundation Philippines Incorporated, which the court described as a bogus and non-existent non-government organization. Police have launched a manhunt against 2 men riding tandem on a motorbike who shot and wounded an off-duty police officer in Piquet, North Cotabato. Major Maxim Peralta, Pickett Police Chief identified the victim as Patrolman Brian Cinco, a resident of Barangay Poblacion and a member of the Pickett Municipal Police Station. This is work-related. Patrolman Cinco is a police officer who has been religiously performing his job as a law enforcer, Peralta said in an interview Thursday, the 15th of September. He added several persons of interest are being considered to have carried out the attack. Cinco, 33, was off duty Wednesday, the 14th of September, and working on the fence of his residence on crossing Cuevas and Fernandez streets in Barangay Poblacion when he was shot once at around 4 p.m. by a gunman who fled with an accomplice on a motorbike. Cinco sustained a bullet wound in his abdomen and is now undergoing treatment. A police officer was shot dead by an unidentified gunman along the national highway in Barangay Banlag, Moncayo, Davao de Oro on Sunday afternoon, according to a report. Staff Master Sergeant Ray Binalangbang, who was assigned at the Davao de Oro Police Provincial Office, had just stepped down from his pickup when he was shot dead by an unknown suspect. The victim was rushed to Davao de Oro Provincial Hospital but was declared dead by attending physician Dr. Rodolfo Romando Jr. due to several gunshot wounds on his body. Colonel Benedicto Faco, PNP Provincial Director, said that the PNP will act swiftly so that justice will be served to the family of Binalangbang. Faco also condemned the killing of Binalangbang and asked the public to help the police in identifying the killer. Police are still trying to establish the motive of the killing. While the Sandigan Bayan reduced the fine imposed on former Mayor Angel Vire Pelaglorio Jr. and a private contractor in their conviction for malversation of public funds, the court ordered them to pay civil liability as additional penalty. Pelaglorio and Izumo Contractors, Incorporated President and Chief Executive Officer Cedric C. Lee were convicted of malversation in the construction of the Mariveles public market in 2005. They were sentenced to a prison term ranging from 12 to 18 years and were ordered to pay a fine of 23,470,500 pesos, which was equivalent to the amount malversed. They were acquitted of graft charge. Pelaglorio and Lee filed separate motions for reconsideration, both praying for acquittal in their malversation charge. Pelaglorio said that he was never in custody of the money reportedly malversed, while Lee argued that there was no evidence that proved he misappropriated public funds for his own personal use or benefit. Ruling on the motions, the anti-graft court said that there are no new matters that will prompt this court to either amend, alter, modify, or reverse the assailed decision except on two specific issues: the inclusion of taxes paid as part of the fine and the restitution and civil liability of both accused. This court, after revisiting the computations on the amounts paid, found that only the amount of 19,442,267 pesos was acknowledged to have been received by accused Movement Lee. The court's resolution stated, hence, this court reduces the amount of the fine imposed to 19,442,267 pesos, the actual amount malversed, it said. But the resolution stated that there is an imperative need to modify its earlier decision regarding their civil liability and ordered them to jointly and severally pay the government 19,442,267 pesos with interest of 6% per annum from finality of the decision until fully paid. Their graft and malversation charges stemmed from the transfer of public funds to Izumo Contractors even without procedural safeguards, guarantee of performance, and in violation of Commission on Audit rules as advance payment for the construction of Mariveles public market on the 27th of March, 2005. The prosecution said, and the court affirmed that the construction never commenced. 5 of the 6 traffic enforcers from the Lapu-Lapu City Traffic Management System, who earlier tested positive in a drug test on the 1st of August, 2022, also yielded positive results in the confirmatory test. This was confirmed by Gary Leo, Executive Director of the City of Lapu-Lapu Office for Substance Abuse Prevention, CLOSAP, after they received the result of the confirmatory test on Thursday, the 8th of September, 2022. Leo said that the 5 traffic enforcers were found to be positive of using shabu, while 1 had negative results. We found out that of the 6, 5 are confirmed positive for using methamphetamine hydrochloride, locally known as shabu, nag positive, Leo said. Leo said that the 6 were already temporarily terminated from their work, pending the result of the confirmatory test. He added that he already informed the Human Resources Department of the results, wherein those who tested positive will be terminated permanently. Leo also invited the 5 traffic enforcers to enroll in the drug rehabilitation program of CLOSAP, which will last for 3 months. Meanwhile, The traffic enforcer who tested negative on the confirmatory test will be reinstated, Leo said. That's all for this week. I'll see you next week with more stories of corruption and foolishness within the Philippine government.